Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Chan. I'm the Executive Director of IITTI World Civility Index. And again, with me, we're very privileged to have soft skill expert Carolina Tan here with us. And we're going to talk about two simple ways to change and affect people's mind. So, and as you know, people's mind could be quite set in their own ways and how can you influence them? So that would be an important topic. So Carolina, thank you.
Hi, hello Patrick, and hi to all our ET followers out there. Thank you so much for your love and support. Yes, so today's topic brings us to the two simple ways to change people's minds. But before we even get into that, think about this. How do we go about convincing someone who does not see eye to eye with us, or someone who gives us a flat no?
Mm,
Because we do experience this in life, right?
mm,
So, well, experts, okay, call this feeling or need to rebel sort of this psychological resistance,
mm,
meaning we end up feeling annoyed, panicked, or angry when rules or guidelines are put into place. In
mm,
one word, this is what we term reactance.
mm,
So
yeah.
just as what the word implies, well, according to Jonah Berger, she's the author of The Catalyst, How to Change People's Minds. You know, whenever we are not given like autonomy or the freedom of choice, anytime we feel like we are being persuaded or that our action or behavior is being like swayed to the other side, we end up essentially putting up what we call our anti persuasion radar. In other words, there's utmost resistance
Mm,
because we all want the mobility and the freedom of choice to
mm,
do as we please and also to be able to express our thoughts.
mm,
So, do you and I give orders? If we do, chances are this will not be effective because when people feel that their independence is being limited, what happens here is that we actually end up feeling demotivated and we are highly, most likely to retaliate. Can you think about this? Imagine for a moment you and I are actually boarding an airplane. We have what we call these pre-flight reminders, right?
mm,
But essentially, since airline companies are able to reframe the message, when flight attendants, end up doing all of these pre-flight reminders, it actually gives or exudes a positive vibe or tone. Therefore, we actually give them our attention and really make sure to at least like read the packet that's actually in front of our seat
mm,
and inclined to follow orders or at the very least look to where the emergency exit is.
mm. Well, I know that for me anyway, I always thought that I could be a team player. I can be quite easygoing, but it turns out that at certain points along the way, I end up being, like you said, very reactive, very resistant to other people's trying to come in and say, "Hey, Patrick, we should do this, do that, do that, do that." I end up being really anxious. I don't want to say no, but at the same time, inside me, I know I really don't want to change. I really
There,
thought that I was right. I really thought that I was right. So, yeah. So, okay. So sorry to interrupt.
It's all right. So having that spring of resistance feeling is of course normal. That makes you and I very much human. So going to the two simple ways, what is the first simple way that we can do to change people's minds? Well, to begin, okay, let people create their own opinions. You know, like when we present the problem, we actually give them the freedom of choice to develop solutions. Let's say if we are a service provider, we can simply pose the question, do you want to be a good service provider or do you want to be an excellent service provider? You know, giving that question, it somehow it's open ended and it gives them the freedom of choice. Then by all means, since people will be coming up with their own decisions, then most likely they will oblige and follow suit with that since it came from them.
No, wait, okay. Let me get this straight. So you're actually giving them choices. And like you said, it's an open-ended kind of question so that they form their own opinion first. Is that,
Yes,
yeah, okay.
it's not just giving them their own choice, but the solution
A
would
solution.
actually be coming from them.
Okay.
So option one, option two, option three. So let's say if you have several people in the group or team,
Mm,
so once you post that like question, do you want to be a good service provider or do you want to be an excellent service provider? Most likely the answer would be, of course, striving for excellence, right? But to excel, what does it take to actually excel? So the pointers now like will be coming from them. So what do they need to do? Whether it be I need to work more, or I need to actually like devote more hours,
mm, mm,
or like up the ante for activities. So the solutions would come from them.
mm. It's now I'm gonna challenge you a little bit before you go on to number two. It sounds to me it's almost like not really much of a choice because you're giving them options that who would want to say I want to be a good whatever instead of an excellent whatever. Um, wouldn't you get pushback from something like that in your experience?
I don't think so because yes, you are right in saying that if you actually like dissect the statement, it's like giving people two choices, right? It's like do you want to be A or do you want to be B?
Mm,
But it does not stop there because when they pick an option, then by all means the solution would have to come from them. So when you choose option A or when you choose option B,
mm,
what does it take to be able to achieve that, or what do you have to put more of, or what do you have to contribute more of to be able to get to that level? So
oh,
then by all means the solution will be coming from them. So bottom line here is they will actually feel positive because since the solution came from them, it actually gives them this sort of autonomous and feeling of freedom,
mm,
that it's actually their voice that is heard.
mm, 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 mm. I suppose like if they choose, oh, I just want to be a good whatever, then I can see that their downside to it. Instead of being the excellent whatever, they just want to be a good one. There are trade-off, of course, and they would come to their own conclusion that, oh, maybe that is not a very good choice after all. Maybe I really should be an excellent one because there are there are less downside and so on. But anyway, that sounds good. What is your other the other suggestion?
Yes. Number two, okay, to keep it simple, highlight the gap. When we say highlight the gap, instead of telling people what they're doing wrong, we
Mm,
should point out a gap between their attitudes and their actions, or what they are doing and what they might actually recommend for someone else. Remember this particular article, like in Thailand, when anti-smoking campaign was actually up.
mm,
Instead of just telling people, oh, don't smoke, that's actually bad for your health, they
mm,
actually placed children who were actually carrying cigarettes in their hands out in the street and actually asking for people to light their cigarettes. Of
mm,
course, adults would definitely say, "Don't you want to live long because you're only a child yet you're already holding a cigarette?"
oh,
So what's the bottom line here? If a child is actually doing that, a child can actually tell the adult, well, you're concerned about my welfare, what
oh,
about yours?
oh,
So that actually was a very very good campaign, as
very
it
powerful.
turned out.
Yeah, very powerful. So they actually got a lot of children to be the actors, to be the
to
yeah.
to
Wow.
do that. It's like live in action. So capturing people's like reactions, emotions, like behind the cam.
Huh.
And it was a very good campaign. So it turns out like it created a lot of awareness, and therefore like it stuck to the mind of adults and smokers in particular.
Mm. Wow, it brings back another incident many years ago. I can't remember which country, but they were talking about young people driving and killing themselves because they were going too fast, speeding. and kills a lot. And they said, well, we got to give them the bitter pill and take young people to the mortuary to show them what dead people are like, especially dead people from car accidents, for example. And so it will
A
scare
very
them.
gory
Very gory.
scenario.
Yes. And there were a lot of pushback in society saying that, hey, these are our kids, but then the other side are saying that, no, you should really have young people understand what reality is like. Reality is not a fantasy. When people die, they die, and you can die a very horrible death, and you never see that person again. Unless they actually feel that, you can tell them all you want, like you said, you can tell them all you want, but just going in one year and going out the other year, it doesn't work. So yeah, wow, okay, very powerful.
That's an excellent example, Patrick, that you mentioned, which reminds me way back in the 1950s when the automotive company Ford, of course, and automotive, therefore we equate seatbelts with that. And typically people during those days aren't the types who would buckle up, right, when they drive. So eventually, of course, with modern technology, like vehicles nowadays, like you would hear a continuous beep, so until you actually buckle up, so you'll be hounded by that noise. So
Yeah.
somehow it has evolved to make sure that our sensory, senses are actually made very much aware.
Mm-hmm.
So,
In the old days, it used to be the thinking is that I don't want to be tied down. If there's a car
mm-mm.
accident, I want to be thrown clear so that the car wouldn't hurt me. That's the thinking in the old days, right? But of course, with all the evidence showing that if you're going to be thrown around, your chance of killing yourself is much higher than if you buckle
Yes,
down. So I think we're all stubborn in some ways until the evidence really are hitting us in the face. And yeah. So,
exactly.
okay.
Inspirational insight for today.
Mm,
Do you know that social influence actually goes a long way? So pretty much like when we know that, hey, neighbors are doing certain things, let's say in trimming down electric consumption, then we are most likely to perhaps like follow through that example, as a way to save.
mm,
Bottom line here is we can always turn adversaries into allies because
mm,
whenever we build trust, that actually goes a long way. So
mm.
that's the inspirational insight for today.
Okay, that sounds good. So trust take a long time, and but over time and consistency, I think yeah, it can be done. It can be definitely done. Okay, thank you very much. I think it has been a very good talk this week, and we'll chat again next time. Thank you very much, Carolyn.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye. Okay.